English news every morning.
And a Golden Angel Award ceremony.
Hello, my dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome to the East-West Show, a show talking about the truth, nothing but the truth, that is exclusively sponsored by Wolfers. Wolfers, the Belgian royal family designated brand of jewelry that has 400 years of glorious history, hand-forged by 10 generations of the master craftsman, that stands for a testimony to the spectacular and also a share of the royal glory. That said, brings us to today's show. Today, as you see, a very familiar face. However, due to his busy schedule, this year is his first appearance on this show. However, with my respect, I would like to seriously introduce to you my dear friend and dear friend to the community and the political leader of California for so many years, Honorable Mike Yin, please.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mr. Jack Xiao. You also are a media superstar for what you have done.
Thank you very much.
And your impact on the community and educating our community cannot be measured. It is that great.
Well, thank you for recognizing that. I believe me and my team will be proud of what you have said. And thank you for such a compliment. Thank you very much. And I know that you are now on the brand new position, your new job. Honorable Mike Yin now is the member, one of the 5 of the California Unemployment Insurance Peer Board. That is a very, very important position. I would like to make it more known or understood by my audience, which is your constituents. What is the board, please?
Thank you so much for asking. And it is one of those boards that have great impact but are sometimes little known. So the CUIAB, California Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board, is a group of individuals of only 5 attorneys in the state of California that provides the appeals due process for anyone that applies for 3 types of benefits in California. Number 1 is unemployment insurance. For example, if you are you have a job and all of a sudden you are either laid off or you're terminated, you have the right to apply for unemployment insurance. Number 2, disability. If you are injured, whether it's on the job or off the job, usually if it's on the job, you have workers' compensation. But many of our workforce, our citizens, are injured away from the job. And also issues related to taxation of the employer with regards to the employment process. So on any given day, there is probably about a 4 to 4.2% unemployment rate, which means that about 820,000 Californians are making claims for they're unemployed, and a portion of that is making a claim for unemployment. Our job is not to side with the employer or the claimant, but to make sure the law is carried out. The law basically says that when a person is separated from their job or they're injured or employer is taxed with regard to the workplace, that they have a certain due process, the ability to get a decision and appeal it not once but twice, and sometimes even 3 times. And that's our mission, is to protect the rights of our employees and our employers, unemployed and disabled workers.
And how and when did it start?
It actually started in California in 1943.
1943.
So, yes, so as you know, it's been quite a long time. It has varied at various times in terms of the size, but it's always had recently at least 5 members. And an interesting side note is that presidential candidate and U.S. Senator Kamala Harris actually was appointed as one of her first positions with the state of California.
I see.
So as I look on the wall of people that have served before, she is one of them. Last year we paid out about $5 billion in benefits. And when you take into account that every dollar that is paid to someone for unemployment or disability, that has a double effect on the economy. So the impact was about $10 billion. So it's a big impact, but sometimes very little known.
Yeah, I mean, while listening to your introduction, I feel I started kind of like creating a certain feeling that I feel ashamed for the public media that make it so little unknown, that lots of people do not even know such a board existed. As a matter of fact, in 1943, that's longer than I've been here. So it's good. And also my audiences, I know that you have lots of complaints, but in this regard though, it is only the fact that you are less informed, because we do have a board that speaks for the people that need help. Obviously, it's a job by nature, or it's a accord by nature to help with the honorables. I mean the vulnerables, right?
Yes, that's a very good situation that you defined it as. Many times we have employers and employees that face family situations where the employer has someone that's worked for them very loyally. It's a great relationship, but because of illness or injury, that particular worker may have to take off from work, move perhaps to take care of a sick parent, or stay at home because of the children, going through family crises, maternity leave. Yeah. Paid family leave is one of the jurisdictions that we have. And so the moment that happens, that's where our board comes into place. And so someone, let's say a typical employee, would go to the local EDD, Employment Development Department office, and file a claim for the fact that they will be not having any income because they've separated from their job.
Is it above EDD or below EDD?
So at the front line, the first person to take the claim is the EDD. That's what we call the first level. And then that EDD individual or individuals will process your claim. They'll ask you for the name of the employer, how long have you worked, under what conditions were you separated, et cetera, et cetera. They will make a determination to either grant a benefit or not. Now, if they grant a benefit, say up to $450 a week, the employer may not agree. They may say, well, this person left the employment and doesn't deserve to have any payment. So the employer can appeal it to an administrative law judge called the field judge.
I see.
So that's the first level. The EDD could decide that that employee does not deserve the benefits under the law, and so the employee can appeal it to that same judge.
I see.
So that's called the field judge. They will then have their quote-unquote day in court. They can bring witnesses. They can ask questions of the other side. They can have a translator if they don't speak English. They can even ask that the court subpoena documents or witnesses for them. Okay. Now the interesting thing, Jack, is that if that decision is not agreed to, it can appeal to another level, which is our level.
Still higher.
That's right.
The supreme level. Yes.
Yes, which is called the board level.
Yeah.
And very rarely is it appealed further. They can still, if they don't like that decision, and they have enough money for a lawyer, they can file a
That's our
case
issue, but
in
within
the Superior
range,
Court.
that's the final, right?
No, they can go to the Superior Court.
Well, I mean within range.
Within the local jurisdiction, yes, without having to go to a formal court.
I see.
So
I see.
EDD, judge number one, and then the board.
I see.
Okay?
I see.
So those are levels.
If we take the board as a whole, though, it doesn't deal with case by case. It deals with the policies. Am I right?
We do receive each individual member of the 5 board has to process about 20, sometimes 30, and in the past 40, and even as high as 100 during the recession, cases every day. So we look at individual cases. Where you're correct is that we have to apply the general policy and general rules and precedent, what we call precedent decisions, how our particular board has handled cases in the past, how the courts have handled the case. For example, the California Supreme Court may have ruled, the Superior Court may have ruled on that. So we are like appeals judges where we take individual cases, but those cases, the way in which we decide are based on previous cases. For example, there may be a fact situation that is very identical that another board previous to us decided, and so we generally look at the way that case was handled. So it's like any kind of appeals court.
All right. My dear friend, my lovely audiences, with my friend, the friend to the community too, Honorable Mike Yin, a board member of California Unemployment Insurance Appeal, we're understanding a lot. At least I understand that we have one more court system that speaks for the vulnerables. Shame on me, it was known by the public, but we know that with people like Honorable Mike Yin, we are in good hands. We're in pair of good hands. That when you have problems, how are you contacted? So, do the members of the board, accept the cases, or is there a certain channel or protocol to follow?
It's a very good question. So, the EDD level, where the average person will contact them, is available in their particular county or the area where they work. Then it goes to an appeals judge, in which they'll be assigned a courtroom.
I see.
Also someplace, either in Orange County, in our case, Los Angeles or Orange County. There's one in Pasadena. There's several courts. Now, if those cases are appealed, then they're referred to Sacramento, where our appeals board, the California Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board, is housed, not far from the state capitol, where I once served in the state assembly, but it's not in the capital area. It's maybe about 10 or 15 minutes away, but it's still in Sacramento. It's part of the large governing part of our buildings and part of our workforce that we employ in California to ensure the rights of our citizens.
Thank you very much. Very well said. To ensure the rights of our citizens. That's very well said. Very loudly said. I get excited hearing that because I have lots of evidence to let you know, to tell why I get excited. Let's take a short moment out, and we come back to continue to hear more from Honorable Mike Yin. Stay with us, please.
Everything is expected to be straight. It's like the same runway.
My name is Paul James. I host the news.
And a Golden Angel Award ceremony.
Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences. Welcome back to the East West Show. Jack Zhao here with my dear friend to the community, a good leader. If you call him a politician, I would add something on it. A politician that, speaks your language, I believe. And I've been on this job for almost half my life. And I believe I have the seniority to say that because I've been following this great leader for ever since, even from his Garvey district days, all the way to Monterey Park, all the way to State Assembly, all the way to LASD as the second president,
LACCD, yes, Vice President. Very good memory.
All right.
Yes.
As a second president, right? Vice president.
Yes.
And now one of the 5 members of California board of the insurance unemployment insurance appeal, right? So as you can see, all the jobs he has taken so far are mostly characterized in the shape of serving the people. When we say their people, I quote from Constitution, I say we the people kind of people, all right? I recall his assemblyman days, and I recall his college school board days, and I believe never once did he take a stop serving the people, right? Now he's serving the vulnerables, which is more important. Speaking of the importance though, your job, specifically the board, what is the significance to the society for its existence, for its day-to-day work?
Very good question. I think the importance of this position is to make sure that when our workforce is without income, that they are not put in a vulnerable position so that they become a burden to themselves, their families, their communities, and then become spiraling down and eventually end up, as we can see, without resources, sometimes homeless and on the streets. At the same time, we also want to make sure we protect the rights of the employers.
Stop right there, sir, please.
Yes.
Please, I beg you, right? Because we have an important issue to touch later. But right now, saying that from that level, though, you try to do the job as a board member to prevent the worst to happen, right? They might flow onto the street, becoming one additional homeless if you're not helping them, right? That, I believe, is the important significance. Am I right?
That's a
By
very
reducing
important,
the numbers.
It's a very important condition that we want to avoid. A population that is separated from their job, which pays for the rent, pays for their food, their medical, their kids' education, not having income, but making sure that within the law that their rights and their education of what their rights are fulfilled. And at the same time making sure that employers are treated fairly as well, because the employers
of course.
pay into the system, and we want to make sure that both of them are clear on their, because we don't want, on the other hand, also employers that end up paying into a system where they feel disadvantaged and they lose income and they go out of business because perhaps they have unforeseen expenses that are unfairly imposed on them. So we have to be fair to the employers and employees. But the bottom line is to make sure that no matter who you are in California, whether you're the employer, employee, or a disabled person, that we provide within the legal system the lifeline of support to give you resources.
And also you provide the stability of the society. Am I right?
That's right. Without this, every state virtually has recognized that this is an important part to make sure that during unstable times, especially when you have a very high rate of unemployment that I faced when I was in the assembly, the unemployment rate skyrocketed, that we have the resources to make sure that people can bounce back. They have money, perhaps they can go to school while they're unemployed and still get paid a little bit, so that when the economy bounces back, they can resume another job.
I've been naive myself, and while I'm asking, I would probably also make this opportunity to educate our audiences that suppose if a person is out of a job for a month or 2 months, right, all of a sudden due to whatever reason, while looking for the next job, with the money from the state, from the unemployment, from the federal, if any, from any programs whatsoever, is it enough when put together to make sure that this person does not go homeless onto the street?
Well, the benefits
when,
that are,
when so far when the status quo is concerned?
of course, people that don't have enough money will always tell you that it's not enough money. But given the amount of resources, we paid out, I think it's up to $5 billion last year.
$5 billion with a B.
With a B. Let me give you an example. I think the issue really is whether they have enough. I think if they get paid something that they're entitled to, we can pay benefits. Disability, I think the average is in excess of $600. And then disability, non-disability unemployment is, say, around 300, a little bit over 300. That's the average per week. But I think the most important part to educate your viewers is under what circumstances can they even apply. Because our biggest problem sometimes is not that the amount is too small, it's that there is no amount because they don't know about it. So let me give you 3 or 4 examples where they may not know. Number one, supposing that their job is dissolved because the employer closed down due to certain reasons.
Closed down.
They had to move. Maybe they moved the whole company to another country.
Yeah, you're right.
They may be entitled to training benefits to train them for a position. Family leave. Someone that needs to stay home to take care of a parent or a child, bond with a child. That's another condition. Someone that's disabled. Just to say that someone is on the weekend away from their job, they walk down the stairs and all of a sudden they miss the stairs and they break their leg.
Okay, all right.
They're entitled to apply for disability. Has nothing to do with their job, but it's called disability, SDI.
Oh, it is very important to know that.
That's right. If you look at your paycheck, there's a little box there that you may see called SDI, that's State Disability Insurance.
I see now. I see
So
now.
that's
the
another
logic
area.
is that while you're okay, while you're intact, you paid portion of it
That's correct.
continuously.
That's right. And so now all of a sudden you break your leg, you can't go back to work. You're not covered by workers' compensation because it was on the weekend, for example, and you didn't work. You were 1,000 miles away from work. You still need the money.
I see.
And the money may not be coming in through unemployment insurance because you can't qualify through, let's say you didn't get workers' comp. So you can apply for that. That's very, very important. So these are circumstances.
Disability, even temporary.
That's right, temporary disability.
I see, I see.
So these are 3 examples that most people do not know. Another situation
You're right,
is
you're
someone,
right.
let's just say they have an argument with their employer. It happens all the time, unfortunately, in any kind of relationship. And they get fired. Now, we will look at the conditions of termination to determine whether they are entitled to disability, to unemployment insurance. Now, the laws regarding employer-employee are very different sometimes. An employer has the right to terminate someone for many different reasons, but that doesn't mean we don't pay them unemployment insurance. And then an employee may have reasons to quit voluntarily. They weren't fired. They may quit. It has nothing to do with how their employer treated them.
Okay.
But under some circumstances, if they quit, they may also be entitled to unemployment insurance benefits.
I see.
For example,
I see.
we have many with the homeless, with the high cost of housing. We have many families that have to leave because they can't afford the housing, and so they'll go and live with a relative. Someone, say in Southern California, may go to live with somebody.
Yeah, way to go.
In San Bernardino, and so they can't commute 2 hours every day to their job. Or they may go to San Diego, or maybe their parents have a home up in Northern California in San Jose. So under certain specific circumstances, if they terminate, they have no other alternatives, and they have to leave to stabilize their housing. They may, I'm not saying they're guaranteed, but under some circumstances, they may be entitled to unemployment insurance, even though they had a perfectly good job available, the employer was still willing to hire them.
Another word is it's very reasonable and reasonable to everybody. Am I right? While law allowing everybody the right, and the state of California really does the job. And when we come back from our next segment, though, I would like to check with you about, if you do not mind, about your exactly job duties at your position. Shall we, please?
Yes, very
All
good.
right. My dear friend, let's take a short moment out. When we come back, we will continue with my dear friend, Honorable Mike Yin. Please stay with us.
Everything
We
expected
have
to
continue
straight.
to work
It's
on
like
it
the
now.
scenes on Wayne.
My name is Paul James. I host English News here in
And a Golden Angel Award ceremony.
Hello, my dear friend, lovely folks. My dear fellow Californians, we're talking about California. And I know that California is in a pair of good hands in terms of unemployment insurance, because we have all kinds of ways to secure that are vulnerable, the less fortunate sometimes are getting help that they needed. Honorable Mike Yin is now the member of one of the 5 members of California Court of Unemployment Insurance Appeal. It is an important job, yet little known to the public, the availability especially, right? Talking about the job, describing the structure and how it works though, as a job duties, how do you describe yours?
Okay, there are 5 board members, and each of us reviews anywhere from 20 to 30, and as I said in the past, some board members have had to review up to 100 cases a day. What this means is we sit in front of a video screen, and we will look at cases in terms of documents. We can also hear testimony of the case. So for example, if I have 20 cases today, one case could take anywhere from a half an hour to an hour. When I first started the position and I looked at 20 cases, I said, boy, it's taking me an hour to understand each case. So gradually you begin to learn, and you spend, I average at least 8 hours a day to review the cases. And so what it involves is it will be assigned one case at a time. We click onto a video monitor. That case will reveal 4 things on the video monitor. Number 1, the decision of the previous judge whose decision we are reviewing. So we review their written decision, what were the facts, what was the law, and what was their decision to grant benefits or deny benefits, or grant so many benefits, based on a mathematical formula. We also have the ability to look at the entire case. For example, let's just say a person's stayed home because they hurt their leg or they can't move their arm. There will be doctor's reports, so we will review the doctor's reports. There may be there will be documents to state why the employer terminated this particular individual, or there may be documents in which the employee says, this is why I was fired, or this is why I quit. So we look at those documents. We also look at the frontline EDD officer writes up a report, usually it's on a form, as to why they
recorded, right?
And they have a very tough job. They have people hundreds of people walking in and out, and they have to, take down all the information and then make a decision fairly quickly whether they will grant benefits or not. So we will review all of that. Now, the most important thing sometimes, because as you know, documents don't say anything, they're just black and white, black letters on a white
Yeah, of
page.
course.
We can listen, usually put on some headphones and listen to the entire case because everybody, in addition to the documents, they have their day in court.
Yeah, I see.
And sometimes there may be more than one hearing.
Like the depositions thing.
Like a deposition, yes, or like a court case, like you
like
see
a court thing,
on television, Perry Mason, or so each case will involve possibly up to 30 to 40 minutes of listening, and sometimes you want to go back. And I have sometimes spent an hour because I couldn't understand what they were saying.
It's a tough job.
Well, some of the testimony is by telephone. They're not there in the courthouse. They're on a speakerphone. And so I will have to keep playing it back and forth, back and forth. So as I said, a case easily could take an hour, but I generally don't.
When you reach a clear picture of the case, though,
yes.
What do you do then?
So what we also do is each case we're paired with another attorney, another one of the 5 board members who's an attorney, and we can, and also we're paired with another appellate judge. So there are 3 of us. We can communicate sometimes briefly if we have questions about the case, and then we will then make a decision. The 2 of us will make the ultimate decision. The judge will generally follow our recommendation or raise questions until we're all satisfied. But generally, the 2 attorneys or board members will make the decision, and our names will go on the actual decision that will be mailed out to the employer and the employee, or whichever parties are
So
involved.
once it's gone through that process,
Yes.
it is becoming more fair.
Yes, if you
right?
think about it, we are literally the 3rd party to review a case.
1, 2, yeah.
That's
you're
right.
You're right. Yeah.
If you think about it,
So-
you get a ticket, you're driving down, the officer gives you the ticket, maybe you'll go to court once, and then that'll be it.
You're right. You're right.
Very few people.
And I
do
believe
This
that
one
you
have 3
are
levels.
qualified. You are more than qualified for the job with your attorney background, with your education, attorney background, and also your years of assembly, and your years with the school, college board, and of course you have clear picture at certain levels, several levels of the society. And now that when you look down at this disputes so far, so whatsoever, well, you can handle faster than anybody else, I believe.
Well, I think everybody's qualified that gets appointed. Remember, the governor appoints 3 people. The Speaker of the California Assembly appoints 1 person. I'm that person for the Speaker.
I see.
The head of the Senate Pro Tem appoints 1, so that's 5 of us. They're all very, they all go through a process of vetting.
I see.
But for me, and each person has their own experiences they bring to the table. The experiences that I bring are, number 1, as an employer. I have, as a our law firm has, we've hired at any given time up to 25 people, and we had 2 offices. So I have that perspective. I also, as an employee, of course, I've worked at many jobs in healthcare and education, et cetera, et cetera. And then I've also worked with what we call the administrative law judges. I have great respect for them. These are the judges that are called ALJs, Administrative Law Judge. When I was on the state acupuncture board, we worked with these particular judges over our cases on whether we would discipline or not.
I remember
how to
that.
discipline the
I remember that.
acupuncturist
Yes.
profession. So and also the practice of law. Arguing cases before in front of the court system is also important. So those are the things that I bring with me to this experience, as well
Thank
as
you
a sense
very
of
much. Yeah, thank you.
one thing that you pointed to, which is important for a sense of fairness.
Yes.
No matter what your prejudice is, we have to be fair. That's and I've tried to implement that in every part of my career. We have to be transparent. We have to be open about
Yes, of course, yeah.
And then, of course, we have to be respectful of our mission and our resources and the people that support us. That we have many people that help us For one case to reach my desk or to reach my television monitor, there may be many, many people that worked very hard to prepare the record to use their precious eyesight.
Right now, well, I believe lots of people are bothered with the fact that we have the issue going backwards. We're kind of a zigzag, seesawing on the homeless issues with the pressures Eric Garcetti is taking. And the fact we're talking about the federal levels, try to make a determination of the problem, though. And you just now mentioned that with your effort, of your board, though, at least you did your part of reducing numbers, not by adding up, right? So, speaking of that, though, do you mind if I touch a little bit on that issue of the homeless?
Yes, please, because I think it is something that we try to avoid in the position that I'm in.
What's your take about the homeless?
Well, Jack, thank you for asking. You're one of the first people that highlighted what we did. When I was on the Board of Trustees, America's largest
Yes.
college,
Thank you.
250,000
Thank you. Remembering that.
9 colleges, and I began to see people when I go to meetings emerging from parking lots and looking very disheveled, and many people would come up to me and ask me for a loan and I began to ask questions, and I began to find out that many of our students were homeless and hungry and mental health challenges, transportation. So I asked, have we ever done a count of the homeless? And I was told by some, well, that's not really our job. It's really the county that provides that issue. And so I said, well, maybe so, but I'd like to know. So we did the first ever homeless count, and we found that a shocking number, 20% were homeless, and about 2/3 of our students are what we call hungry and insecure. What I did was I tried to develop a plan for student housing. And for the first time ever, we had vendors, 40 vendors that were willing to build student housing, but then I ended my term, decided not to run for re-election. So I believe that the homeless situation, we no longer can point to somebody else, to let the church do it or let the city do it.
It is our job.
Exactly. I don't like to use it lightly, but I know many of your viewers experienced the earthquake, 2 of them that actually we felt. And we can say, well, it's your job to provide the food for me if I don't have food. It's your job to give me the water. No, we all are taking personal responsibility now, and I know that there's a run on supplies.
Oh, good
and
take.
I believe that the same urgency that we feel that the big one is coming is applied to the homeless situation, because the homeless situation, the big one has arrived.
Yes.
And it's no longer somebody else's
Exactly.
responsibility. We, each of us, has to decide how we deal with that.
Thank you for that take. As a politician, like I said, I would like to add something on him, that Honorable Mike Yin is the kind of politician he started from the grassroots. And I have evidence to talk about that. Let's take a short moment out. When we come back, we'll continue from where we left exactly. We're not done with that. We're just starting. So stay with us, please.
Everything is expected and straight. It's like seeing John Wayne.
My name is Paul James. I host this news.
And a Golden Angel Award ceremony.
Hello, my dear friend, my lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. I'd say, my dear brothers, sisters, my own sibling of Californians, welcome back to the show. With my dear friend, Honorable Mike Yin, a former assemblyman of California, currently member of the Board of California Unemployment Insurance Appeal. We're sharing lots of facts. As a matter of fact, we're touching base about his mindset. We were on the homeless issue, right? I started the subject without preparing this, without checking your mindset. I just all of a sudden jump on it, ask you, do you mind? You know why I ask you I started doing that? Normally I don't. I recall when I was a reporter years ago, I was at one of your turkey event.
Oh yes, the turkey
Thanksgiving
giveaway
turkey
for
event.
Thanksgiving. Yes.
I don't know if you do it every Thanksgiving Day on that event though. When you were holding turkey, the frozen turkey, big one, I believe, 16 pounds or
They were
15 pounds.
big and
something.
cold.
And you're talking about the fact that we got to be aware that there are people who are having a hard time to bring not only a turkey, a piece of bread on their dinner table though. I was in the front row. I was always active, right? With questions like
You're
that,
one
right?
of the best.
I saw this man with tears in the eye. It really touched me. Politicians do not have tears. When they do, well, I don't know. Well, I can tell that at a precise moment, I see this man has a mind of grassroots. He understands how it felt without food or to be hungry. So may I ask you, did you ever experience how it feels when you're hungry?
I do remember that my parents were in the garment industry and they worked very, very late. And I do know that now my circumstances probably weren't due to economic availability, but possibly due to the fact that I was kind of home alone and perhaps without those resources. I learned how to cook. But I have experienced seeing it. I once worked in an emergency room for 3 years full time, and I saw people who could not afford the health care, and they could not afford anything to eat either. And so I have seen it firsthand, and what struck me at the LA Community College District was the fact that when you're hungry or you're homeless, it's hard to do anything else well. And so when one of my, someone told me, why are you worried about hunger and homeless? Let the county worry. But I said, I'm worried about it because how do you expect a hungry and homeless person to pass the test in your school?
Oh, yeah.
How do you expect them to do their job?
Yeah.
So I think the issue becomes the fact that it really ends up affecting all of it. Even if you don't care about it, you have to care because it affects our economy. It affects our morality. The society that does not care about the homeless and hungry is not American.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. I don't know how you are related with Mayor Eric Garcetti. I'm none. I know nothing about him. However, I would like to check with you, if you would mind to comment a little bit about what he's been recently doing on this issue.
I think Mayor Eric Garcetti is a rare public servant, and he has obviously been under the microscope recently, as well as the county for the increase. But I think he's done. I think he's responded every time there's been an issue. Number one, I think that he discovered that a lot of the trash in the city of LA was coming from perhaps some merchants that just got rid of their trash. Maybe they didn't want to wait for the pickup, maybe of trash, maybe it was too expensive, but they just dumped it, and that created a lot of the problems. So he developed a strike force to go after that with cameras and quick cleanup. There was one instance where somebody complained about this trash, a huge amount of trash, and within 24 hours it was gone. So I do think that Mayor Garcetti, there's something I admire in him, which is that he has the ability to identify, to empathize with suffering, and that makes him respond. Not because he'll be criticized. He's not running for president, and he's termed out.
Yeah.
So I mean, he may have other plans, but he is responding because it's the right thing to do. And I think that's what is important for all of us elected officials or appointed officials or former elected officials, or anyone, is that we need to do something because it's right.
There are two groups of people. Group A say, you got to analyze those people, those folks on the street. There are druggies, there are criminals, there are bad people, there are not hygiene people, people with poor hygiene. They pee on the ground, they poo on the ground, whatsoever. So on and so forth. They produce trash. They make tons of trash every single day. Complain. Of course, by doing so, drug belongs to Department A, and trash belongs to Department B. Back to your say that your job, that kind of thing. And Group B, such as Group B, they say, no matter who they are, no matter what they do, they are human. They are human, out on the street, hungry, need a roof over their head. So we, as a country, as of a number one in the global earth, we, as number one state in such a country, got to do something, got to kill that problem once for all, which is what Mayor Garcetti is doing. Where do you stand, sir? Seriously, A or B?
Well, I think that we all have met people who are A or B or somewhere in between, and some people that have shifted. Some people that have identified the homeless as evil people and not in my backyard, and now go to the soup lines or I think I met some young people, and a very important young woman who saw the homeless situation, came from a very safe background, a lot of resources, and decided to do something about it. And she said, I don't care what people are saying. So what she did was she began collecting blankets and toilet products from all of her friends. And then she would take it downtown and donate it to one of the homeless agencies. And I like that story was because no matter whether you're the richest person or the poorest person, we all need to do something. And even to the people that hate the homeless and blame them for the problem, the homeless are in their are in their communities already. So I think that it's incumbent on all of us to identify, no matter what the problem is, don't just stand there, do something about it. And I think that the issue, even if you don't like the homeless, or you don't like what their impact is on everybody.
Yes, you're right.
I mean, you may feel you can build the highest wall, like a Trump wall, in your house, but the homeless eventually will be sleeping on your streets, whether you like it or not. It is impossible to drive anywhere in California and not see evidence of the homeless.
And someday going to end up a pandemic.
And so we need to take responsibility, and I think the state is trying to do something. Every level of government, because I am part of government, has to take something because we have the resources. And there are many people who are saying, well, don't, as long as the homeless aren't in my backyard, don't, keep them as far away.
That's why,
but they're already there.
That's why Mayor Garcetti is having a conversation with the federal.
The federal government, the state government, everybody has to have some input.
Obviously, sir, you belong to Group B. Thank you for being a B, right? I know we're over time, plus you have a busy schedule. Zamra told me that you have to leave precisely 2 minutes ago. We're over time. And tell her I'm sorry. My lovely friend, my dear audience, I'm not done on the list, but I feel satisfied because within limited time, my dear friend, Honorable Mikey, answered everything to the perfect extent. Thank you very much for watching. And to my dear friend, Honorable Mikey, thank you very much for joining me.
And I hope that this is just the beginning of this conversation. And we didn't say everything today, but we'll be continuing, and I'll be back.
Very good.
With your
we
invitation.
got immigration to talk about.
Yes, we can do that.
And we got a
another time.
wall to talk about.
Yes, yes.
Right.
And
All right.
the elections coming up.
Sure.
And
all right, good.
all of that.
See you next time.